So hopefully you enjoyed the last video of a little engine teardown. This video is going to be a little bit of the same. We are going to take off the pressure plate over here, as well as the clutch, and after we do that, we should be able to get onto the engine stand. So I'm just going to take the part of the stand off over there that bolts to the engine, and I'm using motor mount bolts as well as some transmission bolts, some of the longer ones, to bolt it up. So I'm going to go ahead and yank the clutch. We're going to take a look at that and see how it looks, and then I'll bolt it up to the stand. We'll see if we can get it lifted on there. So I already went ahead and loosened these with a big 3/8 air ratchet, just one by one in like a star pattern. And you kind of want to go across from each other because you want the whole pressure plate to lift off evenly, because there's pressure there. So as you're lifting it off like this, you want it to stay straight. So I'll just show you. Oh, that one actually came all the way out. So we'll just sort of go across like this. And so we can all these. We'll take off our pressure plate. There is our clutch. Alright. So, to be completely honest, it looks like I've barely even broken this thing in. It's, yeah, wow. It looks pretty good, honestly. I don't think that's any glazing on there or anything like that. You can still see the machining on that I had done on the flywheel, so that looks good. Maybe it looks like a little bit of heat got into the actual pressure plate itself. You can see a little bit of heat marks in here, but really not bad at all. I really think I'll just be able to slap this thing back together with this clutch in it. It looks really good. A lot of life left in this thing, so yeah. $60 eBay clutch is holding up. We haven't really put any real power through it, and I haven't done too many launches. But yeah, I'm sure I will in the future. But yeah, I like what I see so far. So see if we can try to get this thing up on the engine stand. I'm probably gonna have to take the flywheel off as well. So I'm not sure if this is advisable or not, but I'm gonna use an impact gun, because every time I try to wrench on this thing, it's not like falling over, and I have to try to jam something in between the flywheel to keep it from spinning on me, and it's just not working. So I'm just gonna hit this thing with my impact gun here. And you know what? Looks like it's working great. Looks like that worked out. And there we go. There's our flywheel off. So yeah, set this aside. This thing looks pretty good, honestly. You can see the machining marks are still on it, kind of. So I think the last clip that I had was me taking off the flywheel. But since then, I bolted that bracket on the side of it. I'll show it to you guys. So currently I have 1, 2, and 3 bolts in. This fourth guy here is just kind of hanging out down there with a bolt sticking in it, but it's not tightened down because that's just a straight sleeve through the engine there. So I'd like to get a longer bolt with a, you know, a nut on the other side so that I can bolt it on all 4 spots. But these top 2 are in pretty deep. This one's in maybe about 1/4 of an inch. So it's held up, it's not going to go anywhere, but just to be safe, I'd like to secure it a bit further before I do anything crazy like take the head off. So I got to figure that out. But for now, I am going to drain the oil, because I didn't drain the oil when it was in the car. Probably would have been easy, but now I got this thing way up in the air. But I got it angled pretty good, so I should get everything out of the pan, take the filter off, maybe take this back water pipe off, start disassembling the side of the timing cover there, valve cover off, just get everything ready to be disassembled. And then I can pop the head off, and then after that comes off, we can spin this thing around and you know, start doing the bottom end, which is what I'm really interested in seeing. But yeah, so I'm going to drain the oil now. That's a tight guy there. So if you guys ever have problems taking off the balancer bolt right here, this guy can be a real pain, especially if it's on there from the factory, or if it's been tightened with one of these sockets here. I had trouble getting it off. I have an impact gun. I have a big air compressor, 150 psi line pressure, and a regular socket would not do it. So this 19mm socket is made by Lyle, and I wasn't sure how it was going to work, but it claims to just have like a lot of mass to it, which it's a super heavy socket, and they say the mass is what helps to break it loose. So I was a little skeptical, but this guy never disappoints. Always comes off like butter. It's really crazy, honestly, how well that socket works. And I bet you anything, if I put a regular 19 on there, it would not have got it loose. So if you guys have a problem, just order that socket and you'll get it right off. Alright, so I yanked off both the balance shaft belt in front and the timing belt as well. Just able to pull it off once again, working carefully. Yeah, so I took off the pulley that was after the balancer. You take the whole cover off, and then we now have all this stuff to look at here. So here's the there's a crank sensor here, and the other one, yeah, there's one here and one here. And I know this one's the crank sensor. Not really sure. I don't know. I'll have to figure that out. But yeah, a couple of sensors there we're going to take off. Take off the tensioner, the motor mount bracket right here, and yeah, I'm going to probably leave some of this stuff, but this whole cover is going to get resealed, I think. So yeah, that'll be nice. That'll be nice to do, because then we'll definitely fix all the oil leaks. So I got the tensioner off and all kinds of other stuff over here. So I think I'm going to call it quits over on this side, and I'm going to start up top here. So I'm going to bust the valve cover off, and then I'm going to go ahead and loosen the cylinder head bolts. And I'm probably going to do from the center out, just like a quarter turn a piece. I'll have the camera rolling, but yeah, I just want to make sure I don't warp the head. Not that I'm going to necessarily use this head. Maybe I will, but I don't think I will. But yeah, I just want to make sure I don't warp anything, and I want my studs to work a second time, my ARP head studs. So hopefully they do. So my method for this has sort of been taking this big breaker, or not really a breaker bar, I need to get a breaker bar, but it's a bar for my jack, put it on this guy, and my pattern here has been sort of starting in the middle and hit the middle two, starting with the top one here. Just give it a quarter turn, and then I'll come down to this one. Give that one a quarter turn, and then move over here. Alright, so let's see if this head comes off nice and easily. Seems like it wants to. Alright. So I did yank off the cylinder head, and now we're looking at our pistons once again. We are back into this engine. So yeah, everything looks super wet in there. I'm assuming it's because, this is where the oil is over here, and I'm assuming some oil came out of the head too and whatever when I lifted it off. But yeah, so we're getting there, getting pretty torn down. I just got to turn this thing around and that's going to splash coolant oil all over the place. And yeah, then I can pull the oil pan and start taking the bottom end out of this thing. So we're going to try to spin this motor here, and we're going to see exactly what comes out of it. I'm going to get over on this side. Good control over it. Trying to make sure we catch everything that comes out, at least most of it.
What are you doing?
Draining the engine.
Not exactly.
Okay. Alright, so hopefully I can get the oil pan off here. Yep. Alright, look at that. There's the oil pickup. Here's the cradle. It holds the whole assembly in place. That's really cool. Alright, this is exciting. Bottom of the pan, a little bit of crap in there. Not too bad. Don't really see any metal or anything, so that's good. A little sludgy, not too bad. Give you guys a little view of what it looks like in here. So, you can see the pistons down in there. I'm gonna have to take this cradle off for you to really get a good look at it, but yeah. You can see the pistons in there, rod cap right there. 1, 2, 3, 4. So, gotta take this whole lower cradle off. I might stop for the day. It's Thanksgiving, so you know, I gotta get ready to eat. But yeah, we're making some good progress on this teardown. I'm really excited to actually get the pistons out and figure out what went down with this thing. Alright, so as I was actually prying on this whole cradle, I had a bit of a crisis, and I remembered that I never actually put bolts in the bottom of this. So it was kind of just hanging off of these two top bolts, and I could see that the whole engine on the stand was leaning. Like I had like a huge gap right here. So like I was super worried that I was like bending or gonna snap the ears off of the block or something. So I ended up taking an old head bolt and a bunch of washers and a nut I found that fits. Clamped this one through the ear here, and then I found this bolt here that I stuck through a big nut to space it. This is like a big starter bolt, so it would bottom out. And now everything's tight. The motor's not moving, so that could have been pretty bad. Hopefully I didn't do any damage. I don't think so, but yeah, I'm sure it's fine. So I did get this undone. It actually mates way lower than I thought. I thought it was like gonna mate up here because there's like a line, but it actually mates down there. So I ended up prying this guy loose, and so I'm gonna take that off. We can take a look at our bearings in here, which, you know, a little bit of scoring, I guess. High mileage motor, but yeah, I don't know, nothing major. We're gonna probably change all the bearings out anyway, but it's just nice to see. Crank looks decent. Yeah, alright, so I'm gonna keep at this here. Let's see, we gotta take this side cover off if we wanna get the crank out. So in order to get the crank out, I'm going to need to have this side cover off. So I took out all those 10 millimeters down there. So yeah, all those 10 mils are off. I'm gonna see if I can tap this with a mallet and get it to break loose. And yeah, I gotta do all the rod caps and take out the pistons. So I'm gonna probably start that too if I can get this cap off. And the other side is all gonna come apart too. All the balance shafts and all that stuff has to come off. So I got the first piston off after loosening the 13 millimeter nuts for the rod cap. You know, I just tapped it with a mallet a little bit, was able to wiggle that one off and push the piston out from the front, making sure to put the rod cap on the same way and everything, just to make sure that we're not going to mess anything up. And here is the first piston that I have removed. I'll bring the light over here so you guys can see this, but taking a look at this piston right here, you know, you might be like, okay, it's pretty clean, that's pretty good, but if you really look in close here at this oil control ring, I'll try to focus the camera more to get you a better shot, but this ring, I think, might be the cause of our all of our issues, so I'll show you guys a little bit closer. So this shot right here is what somebody actually said, and I wasn't sure if they were correct, but I think they could be correct, because if you look right here, you have our two oil control rings like I showed in the diagram. There's the upper control ring and the lower control ring for the oil, and then this zigzag pattern in between. So not only are these, you can see these rings up top are free spinning, these compression rings, and I had great compression, so that makes perfect sense. This oil ring, it doesn't spin, right? So it is stuck. And if you look right here, the separation in the ring, the gap, is right here, and the other gap is right here. They're not supposed to be right next to each other, because oil can easily pass up through here and also up through this one and get into this compression area right here. So with that lineup and the fact that this ring is stuck tells me that's probably my issue. So this is kind of exciting. I got to take the other pistons out, but as far as looking at this, that certainly looks like it's an oil burning issue, because these rings should come out, and just like these compression rings, they should be springy, and they're not, they're stuck in there. So based on that, I say I have stuck oil control rings, which is what I thought I had from the start. So it's interesting that this problem only resulted after I decided to tear the motor apart and do the cylinder head job. But yeah, based on this, I would say that is probably going to be my biggest oil burning issue right there. So yeah, I mean, maybe we can avoid getting a cylinder head. Maybe I'll still get one. I got to think about it. But yeah, I'm pretty hopeful that that right there is my issue. Otherwise, yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed. I'm going to go ahead and take the other pistons out, and I think this is going to cap it off for this video. But yeah, judging by that one right there, I think that's our issue. So thanks for watching, guys. I'm glad we finally got to the bottom of this oil burning issue. It's been driving me crazy. So now all I have to do is order some parts, and then we can slap this thing back together and hopefully not burn any more oil.